So our first item, we've got any apologies. Apologies from Councillor Clark and Councillor Vincent. Thank you. Has anybody got any declarations of interest relating to items on the agenda?
Item 13 is the cash amount there for the heritage sale.
Thank you, Terry. Three is minutes of the previous meeting on the 18th of November. Has anybody got any queries? Does anybody want to propose them? Steve, seconder, Kevin. All those in favour? Providing you were here. It's unanimous. 4 is period of not exceeding 15 minutes, members will expression or submit comments in relation to political agenda items. Copy that is what we actually. So we're now on to item 5. Sorry, item. Item 5, which is to review year-to-date financial budgets and material variances for the town council. A few couple of minutes to look through to remind yourselves of this. Has anybody got any questions? Comment?
I have a couple of amendments to make to this, which are from comments actually in the community plan. There is community development commissioning, which states it's over budget by 5,690, when in fact that is for the community strategy day, and that should have been coded to earmark reserves, so that will bring it within budget. So that will be reflected. Similarly, with remembrance, previously it had been wired to £10,000 budget instead of 8.5, therefore it is still within budget. And these are just coding errors that we'll take back with our finance.
So we go to changes, John.
Under Public Service Committee, the cleaner crew, where it says they need to transfer to AMR due to CEC funding doing the job. When will we know when that's a definitive answer?
So Lindsay and I had a meeting with the cleaner crew manager last week, and of course they said they no longer have the funding level they had, which I think came up to be around 200,000. We've asked for clarity in terms of how much funding is available, and they have indicated it is now 50,000, which means we need to go back and seek confirmation. Where we were coming from was we need clarity on the total funding before we can agree what is possible. I know there's been a previous report done, which we are looking at in terms of recommendations. We've asked for another meeting next week, and we'll give progress on that. But realistically, I think we put that in there because I don't know how feasible it is to get things off the ground before the end of March.
Steve?
Yes, there was. There was a meeting because the cleaning through project board itself the meet now it's finished, and it's the last meeting I think in December. anyway, but the Cheshire East in Towers was really looking, wasn't it? There was that they'll come up with some options how we might apply the funding, and mind this is more to do with future funding, and so I personally can't see them making use of it at all before March. So that's something that comes to the next meeting. But the task, I think it's Mr. Allman to come back with some options, which for consideration by this council, because it does depend. Well, what we can do does depend on what funding Cheshire East Council can put into that. So that will come back to haunt us.
I also raise concerns that if they are saying that you have £50,000 from the 1st of April, we would need to assurance that it's not 1 year funding, because they want us to recruit a cleaner crew officer. By the time we recruit, train them up, it would seem a little bit impractical to them only have it until the 31st of March 2027. And so I have to seek assurance that there is longer term grants.
But otherwise, that post will just be on its own in effect, unless we decide to do something else ourselves. So that's still all up in the air. But yes, in short, the headline improvements that will be promoted by Cheshire East Council, which persuaded us actually to retain this for the purpose, as well, that plan has fallen by the wayside. We'd not like to see it going into the next, the foreseeable future, which I'd say in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's all, yeah.
Yeah.
Annual comments. I think that is to review, so there's no date needed on item 5.
Apologies, I missed item 5, so that would be item 6.
Yeah, item 6 on the agenda, item 5.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
So, next item, to consider and approve payments to date for recommendation to council. 15th of the 10th, 2025, and the 30th of the 11th, 2025, the value of £211,803.21. So, I can give people a minute to look.
No,
These have been checked by members.
Yeah.
It's 12.
Yeah, that one, isn't it?
Any questions or queries? No. So I'm happy to propose that this is recommended to council. Council, is anybody willing to second?
I'll second.
Dennis is seconding. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Right, so to review the following governance documents as part of the annual governance process. But they're on at the
No.
review. Steve?
I just want to ask you, in a sense, it's it's an arising from the minutes which we've approved anyway. This is going to be up in the air somewhat as well. As we resolved last time, that the Clerk and Communications Officer should create a new marketing and communications strategy, and so forth, to be considered by the next Finance and Governance Committee. Well, basically that falls by the wayside for the moment. So that's something that will need to come forward at an appropriate time. I'm not sure when that will be myself. I don't know what there's any comment on that.
Obviously with the current officer who's leave at the end of January, it hasn't been possible to do that. I'm mindful to get the insight of the new person on board because I think it would be practical to do so. So realistically, it would be probably 3 to 6 months. But sooner rather than later, I would hope 3 months, because it just does need to tie in with the comms that we need to look at for town culture and the impact on that essentially. But I will do it as soon as we can.
I mean, it might just be worth sort of making some sort of giving some sort of note to that effect, you know, for whatever reason, sensible reasons, that's I would have thought it's more likely to be June myself, you know, in the next kind of civic year before that's achievable, but it'll still be, well, hopefully it'll be in time to feed into other things. Yeah.
Thanks for that. There's no action needed from us on that part, and just to note it. To receive an information only report relating to civic functions. It's the document department, yeah.
They're very busy.
Oh.
So it's interesting to note. I've just realised I've attended something under the civic events heading. Apart from remembrance, and that's this 3rd of December, the kind of workshop. It's refers to Crewe Town Council developing a new community strategy, and where there was a discussion throughout the day. So no doubt feedback from that will anyway come back to the committee at some point. I know it's in the hands of the whatever you call them, the enablers, facilitators.
Strategy, yeah. It should be in people's title. Monday the 19th, all about people, community strategy meeting at 11 AM. Yeah.
What's that? I've not seen that one.
Did we have the reminder sent out? So you think that went before Christmas?
It did, so it was sent out before Christmas to all councils, but I'll friend it out. It was sent out by Jackie on the 26th of November.
If our Christmas is an ongoing diaries.
I'm just surprised because I'm sure that in the diary, having attended that particular workshop. Okay, I'll just check it out.
Well, Liz will send the invitation out, so
Yeah, that would be.
It's only gone to certain councils. I don't know if it's just gone to the community.
I think it's only gone to the community committee.
can we send it out to all councils?
Yeah.
Because that was that's the one thing that struck me about that. So the civic event, the mayor wouldn't, although she went not as the mayor. Don't think. You know, if it's a community strategy, the council's expected to adopt seems to me that all councillors should be engaged in it at some point. So it'd be good for that to really spread.
Anybody else have any comments? No? That is to receive, so we've received that. So the next one is to receive an information over report relating to the website and communication, which again is the document.
Just in summary, as you can see, November is always one of our busiest months due to remembrance. And also Christmas lights at John, so you can see we've had a lot of good interactive engagement with residents throughout November, and that's evidenced in the statistics. I think one of the comments I've had is needs to be more visual, and you can see that we've actually had 669 views of our members on YouTube, which is a marked increase from
It is, yeah. It's a big improvement, wasn't it? We discussed it last time, didn't we? Yeah. In a short space of time. Yeah.
And I think remembrance is something that people are interested in because they remember family members that do that died in various wars. So I think it's we've done our best for it. And for the new person might have some other ideas about Right, so has anybody got any other comments on that item?
No.
No. So we're moving on to the next item. Consider draft earmarked reserves division 26-27. Liz, do you want to?
So specifically there is a earmark reserve the 31st of March, which is our current reserves less what we anticipate is likely to be spent before then. The main difference in between the current earmark reserves and the prediction for the 31st of March is in the office accommodation, where we anticipate we'll spend considerable amounts for to Chantry Court in terms of roofing and any renovations. So provisionally put £50,000, but clearly things can change in terms of what needs to be done. Gone through each of the earmark reserves. I don't know if you want me to read it out, or we will just have an opportunity to read it.
Typical of is read the questions you've got. Is that way forward?
There's two which I would wish to highlight. One would be the John McBride Fund. I know that's been an earmark reserves for quite a considerable time, and I think consideration needs to be given in terms of should that be spent, or how should that be spent in terms of community benefit. That was what it was intended for.
It was intended for that one term.
And also the community infrastructure levy, but that's on the agenda at the next one to be
The one that on that, I mean, it's just been sitting there and presumably not earning much income. Then I don't know.
It is an interest.
Where is the appropriate place for the future of that fund to be discussed? Whether is that the sort of item that perhaps go to the, I don't know, community committee? You know, seeing as they deal with grants and there's a lot of, which basically is charitable bodies and voluntary bodies.
Flag it in places,
Or something that, I don't know, that would have some longevity for everybody, I don't know. Because it is a McBride fund, it's been there all the time. Rather it be scattered, I don't know. And then there's nothing to see.
Councillor Clark says that in the past, going back to Crewe Nantwich days, that they held the John McBride Trust, but it was divided. It was the interest was used and given out to. She doesn't know how the individuals were chosen. It was given out to individuals.
Really?
Because she remembers actually doing that as part of her role at Crewe Nantwich Council. So.
Well, I remember, frankly, I can remember something of that nature about 30 years ago. And whether it was linked back to this particular fund, because it was, I can remember just for a couple of years, it was about the war caps in South. There was some small amount of money which was for distribution to the deserving poor or something like that. Now, whether it was this one or not, but it was the sort of thing that ward councils were expected to do. I think it soon stop because the amount of money was so small at the time. But Dawn then.
I think Dawn actually made it beyond us, so I think she remembers it well.
Yes,
but I mean, John McBride Trust has increased since we took over, because I think it started something like 52,000. So we've made quite a considerable sum in interest since we took it over. But I think we need to decide what we want to do there. But maybe that we don't use it all at once. Maybe we use portions of it so that it's got more, and maybe that we give a portion of it out in grants.
I seem to recollect there was some sort of rules governing this.
There was
Years ago.
There was when it was a trust, but we dissolved the trust.
Right.
So it's just sat in our reserves one.
If we get the talent culture council, that will be used towards that.
I think the general thing was for the benefit of the residents of Crewe. It was very wide thing.
What about, I mean, like, if Stockton, it's not going to go, probably, but it's like that wasteland that should have been something and it's not, and Cheshire's done nothing with it, have they? Really, it's waste. I don't know, because it would be good if everybody could see what it is or have use of it or something. I don't know. I know that's just chucking it out there.
Do you mean the Royal Page?
Yeah, all that space.
It's actually got vehicles on it. We've actually got the diggers on it today.
Oh, we've got diggers on it today.
Yes, we moved on today.
That's something.
She's dancing.
Oh my God,
Probably
that's
after it's
amazing.
still published out.
Oh, I haven't seen that in any of the meetings and all that. They've decided.
We asked why there going to be any comments about it.
Oh, I was going to say, I did nothing about it.
Facebook and some else.
Oh, right.
There was something on Facebook.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that's such a shame, because it's such a central space. Is it me? It's me, it must be me. It's the black car. Yeah. It's all right.
It's all right.
No, you're not. You want to go on.
Sorry.
So I think
Could I just say, please? I'm not itching to spend them. And the reason is because this guy set it up all those years back. And it was a trust, and what you said is about the interest that was spent was still built. I wouldn't want to see that. I'm quite happy to go on record. I wouldn't like to have that on one of our committees, because what they'll do, they'll get rid of it and it'll go on a little section in, a little section there. It's supposed to be a bit of something that benefits the whole of the town, not, you know, the usual crowd that put in for money and get it, you know. It's got to be something different. Now, I'm not objecting to the interest being spent every year, but I wouldn't want to see that disappear in that set, you know, personally, because I think that's been built up. And we've had lots of discussions when it was a trust, how we would spend it and everything. We couldn't talk about it as if, especially with the councillors, but we were responsible, weren't we? It was very difficult, wasn't it? So we've got it there. I just don't want to see it going, because we've all got an interest in something, haven't we? That, you know, that we like to spend money, you know, we like to, but you know, I personally like to see something that would benefit the whole of the cost of this, rather than, you know, a small grant to, you know, music, or small grant to a dance, or to a charity, you know what I mean?
I would concur with John, that's what I was thinking.
Dave,
Yeah, I mean, that's why I suggest, or ask the question, you know, it's plain that we should, as a council, we should take some form of decision about how we use that and where. And my question was basically not to say, well, we give it to the community committee to spend, because that's that they have a budget heading anyway. But it does need to be considered by a group of members, along with officer support. Well, let's look, you know, let's see what we can do. And that would be a working bond of thoughts, you know, which could discuss these sorts of things. Because when we were discussing it a year or two back, it was as trustees, wasn't it?
That's right.
We had a different heading, a different hat on anyway. That's all I really suggest.
It's sort of steer, isn't it? This committee should do the steer.
Yeah,
We are rejected.
Yeah.
so that's the action for that, that. Is there any earmarked reserve that you to see, not an earmarked reserve that you want to change?
Well, I've got a question, Chair, but I understand that there's the difference between the outturns and what's in the current holdings, if you like, and what's in the budget. And I noticed that the two main changes were the bicentennial celebration fund for the year 2037. We're still along. 2020, that received £10,000 from revenue, or will receive 10,000 from revenue. So that, but then offset by the 50,000 or so that's we think maybe spent as an estimate on the new officers. I just got one quick question on the draft EMRs that we listed. One I couldn't quite make out. It was EMR 359, play area equipment, which is shown as a zero closing balance.
Yeah, that just needs to be removed, because that was obviously one that was previously been spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was sort of basically capital, wasn't it? So I just wondered if it had been left in there in case we just sort of wanted some kind of, we were considering some kind of backup fund or contingency fund for the purpose. I would have thought that would be dealt with by other means anyway.
No, we just couldn't remove it. Realtis was playing up when we were trying to get the minutes out, so we were trying to remove it and use it.
Oh.
For me, there's some earmarked reserves around what I would be the town centre, around hoardings and frontages. I'm not, because I obviously have the services. I'm not sure why that's being held, or this town centre capital project. that, we'd need that detail from the committee, wouldn't we?
So there's some delay in terms of, part of that is the artwork at the bus station, I understand.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been spent yet in terms of awards and frontages. Public art at the station on the internal wall. Some of that is, so that's currently being established, and that will be discussed at public services.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that the committee is best to decide about those two earmark reserves. And then I see we've got an earmark reserve with CCTV, which I thought we paid annually to Cheshire Downs.
I think it was the extra cameras they were talking about in one of the
We did buy
committees?
extra cameras.
In one of the committees, aren't we just pending that big question and then we're going to come back and review it, I think. There was a question mark over it, wasn't there? We're going to, in one of the,
Again, I think
I'm
it's
sure it was, wasn't it? I think that's what it was, yeah. Public services were considering buying some of the CCTV. And then I think it was going to come up again for review. I think it looks a similar figure.
I mean, I've left it in there, but you have change.
I'm sure it's.
It's as you say, Jim, that don't look at the actions now. Oh yeah, imagine for further consideration. Presumably the further consideration will take place
Does it say that?
at committees anyway.
It will do, therefore the position could change before the end of
Yeah.
March, and that
Yeah.
will back the next step in June for the most
Yeah.
up-to-date position on earmarks.
I mean,
Yeah.
the Christmas one, that was there to fund possible maintenance charges. But if the contract with current provider is coming to an end, and we need to review if we have a contract to provide the lights or we buy the lights, that probably would be very useful to leave in.
So we've got one more year as a current provider. We will be going out to procurement this year for Christmas lights 27.
If I remember rightly, the procurement began in the summer of the year before, so that they could come and view the Christmas lights before they put in their estimate.
We've got it diarised to start in August this year.
Yeah,
So
I think that's about the time it's done.
that will reduce, sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
We have had to do some infrastructure costs in terms of repairing electricity pylons and posts on the Nantwich Road, and also some repairs, having eye bolts fitted on Victoria Street. We haven't received those invoices yet, and I think that would realistically come out of earmark reserves. And
Yeah.
that's from stat figure may reduce again by the end of March anyway, but not soon.
Because then I'm remembering back the first set of Christmas lights from bought was 20,000. That was not a huge, well, it was not quite good in that much. But you know, it was just a basic nothing so we've got lighting in the town. That might be politics a little bit in their minds, they've maintenance we've had to do.
I mean, there's one that really has to be thought about by this committee or the council. And I notice this. I mean, the elections reserve £35,000. Comments are quite clear, you know, to address the potential costs that is the casual vacancies which have to be filled by elections of the town council. Yeah. What strikes me in the note comments in the report, it says there is potential. So yeah, if we've had the odd by-election, not many of them, and we finish up paying for them from the parish one, parish or town ones. But it says there's potential that Cheshire East Council will consider passing the costs associated with delivering normal local elections that relate to administering the parish elements. And so that's, yeah, no details haven't been finalised. It's not yet clarified. I mean, that's something that's, you know, it could be something or nothing, but it could be quite significant. election costs are not the
Well, a by-election costs.
well, by
The
election
last
costs
one
10,000,
cost 15. No,
10, 15, right?
no, the last one cost 15.
Right, 15. But I mean,
But if we have to fund all of it, there's 10 wards.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, that's something that we really need to keep an eye on because it says details haven't been finalised, and we talked about the costs associated with delivering normal elections that relate to administering the parish element. So, so it's an unknown cost, and as you say, it could be £100,000 if you were talking about the 4 year all out election. We still have that sort of figure.
The elections, when it's the 4 years and it's parish and borough, then when you do a by-election, you've got all the venue hire and all the. Whereas, you don't know what Cheshire East would charge the parish for. Might not charge them for the venue hire, but would charge them so much per hour for the people to do the counting. You don't know what they might.
That's true.
Because when you pay for the by-election, you pay for the venue hire, pay for the staff to run the various polling stations, and you pay for the staff to count. Where you don't know what Cheshire East might do, but we might need some more money in that.
It
If they
sounds
decide,
like
and trust me that they will need to have some help with election costs.
it sounds to me like in its own curious way. This is the kind of devolution we could do without.
But
We know this guy has been appointed, hasn't he, to look at the local devolution, and presumably this is one of the many headings that might come in those.
to add into the 2027 elections, you've got the election for the mayor of the combined authority, which should be favoured by the government.
Yeah.
So it's not just going to be, there's lots of factors in that 2027 election, which nobody knows about currently. Because the government were going to give something like £1 million for the election for the devolving mayor, which wouldn't have been enough. It would have been too little, I think, but needed £1.5 million. So I think that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. We used to put £10,000 a year in. Then we lowered it. But maybe that's something we need to think about, and maybe you could get some, maybe if anybody interested knows anything about what it might be, that might be helpful.
I'll set it as an action for next time and see if we need to put additional funding in that sense.
I've just noticed this about CCTV, which we just,
Yeah.
I missed that. It said a small EMI may be retained as a responsive funding allocation for needs for additional provision.
Yeah.
So it's there just in case.
Just in
they
case.
want.
Extra. Yeah, I just seem to remember
So that,
it in
yeah,
one of
Yeah,
the
you're
committees
right,
we
so
talked
it's there,
about it. Yeah.
And just the other one on town centre projects. I remember some short while back that the officers sent out saying what they would look, what the market square would look like. So, because at the moment it's not, it's got a few seats.
So
And it's,
how long is going to be?
well, who am I to argue with that? But it's, well, you know, it doesn't exactly get your pulse going, does it? And we were going to soften it up and make it more amenable, if you like. Is this all in this EMAT reserve, or is it some other?
I don't know, that's why I think we need some indication from the.
Lindsay sent out, and it was quite detailed on what, you know, because we spent quite a lot on the Lyceum Square, and you know, for better or worse, we've got it now, and we spent a lot of money on that, and we had to, you know, although we were keen on it, it's there now, and that's it. It's on. But the other squares, as I say, in light of what's happening in the Royal Arcade, which will be grass seed and a few paths and lighting, So that'll soften that.
It
So
would,
it would be nice to.
it would.
I just wonder whether that was some of the funding, or we've got some other. Is there funding somewhere else for all of that, or it's been squashed?
I think that's the funding in there, and there isn't additional funding. I can certainly get clarification on that.
Thank you.
We've got this planning reserve, which is 9,000, but I think that's been there for a long time.
We tend to put ours in there. We only have 10,000 out of this £1 million budget yet, and we spent 7,000 of that very reluctantly, but for the Rivers Authority to clear up the Valley Brook and such things. But we don't want any more, because if we needed it for some training or we needed it for other things, then we have a commitment that we can come and with our begging balls and say, can we have some more money to do this?
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, I would like that left there, please.
Well, I'll second.
Yeah, so.
It's only a small amount.
So one of the things that we've got a procurement on at the moment is, which is going through Lindsay, the Public Services, is planters on Queensway and Delamere Street. So I assume that's incorporated within part of the
Well, some of the planters on Queensway say they were donated by Rolls Royce.
Oh.
So I think they've been there a while. And that's, I mean, there's things going on, isn't there? So if we could, so from this discussion, so could we say, could the Public Services Committee give us some details on what's going on in 356 and 358 and 360?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this committee is going to deal with, I'll look at the John McBride Fund.
Yeah.
Device Interior Celebrations is just going to grow, because that's the funds to this community infrastructure levy we're going to deal with this evening. Office accommodation, we know where that's going. Local service delivery, we know that's the devolution. And the community strategy, well, that will be spent, won't it? So, Christmas we said is leaving until we know what's happening when it goes out. And heritage projects, I assume that Vicky has got that in mind. On strategic events, which is gone, it seems to be being spent anywhere. So the town board website, can that come out as a new amount of money?
We've still had some costs regarding that this year, which is why I've put in.
Right. But it seems to be only $190.
I mean, if you want that moved to general website costs, we can.
Do you think that would make sense?
Yeah, we need to do that.
Because it's such a small figure, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm happy to propose that we move the town board website to general website costs.
Yeah.
Anybody happy to second that?
Yeah.
Right. All those in favour? Thank you. And we're going to get some clarification on the other things.
May I ask about the local delivery? 100,000. What's
That's in case we get services devolved from Cheshire.
Oh, right, yeah, that's
Yeah.
Like elections, but more obvious.
And while we're on devolution, I note that it said we agreed at last council from my notes that we would reconvene the devolution group. Could we find a suitable date for that? Now we've passed the Christmas period. So there's only one action, that was to remove that Small amount which was for the website. Other than that, the amount reserves staying as they are
Yeah.
until such time as we get clarification. Right. So, moving on. To consider matters associated with the council health unit levy. Liz, do you want to start it off?
So there is a paper on it, so it's working. We have money from the community infrastructure levy, the 2025. We have 5 years to spend the money. We do have some time. But this was received in relation to land adjacent to Stoneleigh Farm and Stoneleigh Road. It just is really seeking clarification in terms of are there any suggestions in terms of what that should be spent on, should that remain in the earmark reserves? The paper was brought last year to F&G on the 2nd of June, which I found, which reiterated this position in terms of the £8,500 seeking councillors for, consultation with residents or suggestions of projects that might be appropriate to allocate any community infrastructure levy funds. Do we retain it as earmark reserves, or are there further suggestions on what should be done?
Can I just say that Stony Park, we are supposed to be getting an allotment.
That is what it's going towards.
So I think that we agreed that it would go to help furnish the allotment, because all the contractor will do is put a fence around it.
Yeah. That's what that was being fenced for.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's progressed too much anyway.
So that's something that Pete was working with the developer on. And everything's still.
Yeah.
If that's the case, we'll pick up.
I don't think we ever.
Lindsay was involved as well.
Yeah, that was. You're right. That's what it was for. Is it section down that bottom end?
So we have allotted it. So if you want to tell Cheshire East that it's been allotted to furnish the Stoneleigh Park allotment. Yeah. And that's the development that Till's come from. Yeah. So that's entirely appropriate. Okay.
Well, for purposes of ourselves, that's correct, isn't it? To do that.
Yeah,
but we
that's
don't.
That's from Cheshire East.
Yeah, but
Cheshire East needs informing what we're going to spend the still on.
No, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of things that are having to take place to get those allotments. We've got community involvement. Is it going to happen? So if it isn't going to happen, then we can allot that somewhere else. What we have to do, what we're doing now, is correct, isn't it? We're earmarked it against that.
Right. So we're on to draft business delivery plan as to be collected and submitted. So it's just basically the whole plan.
So this is just a budget that was agreed last year to next year, as outlined business delivery plan for next year, just giving a breakdown of all the different elements. There have been no changes since the agreement of the budget, so you will have already seen all the plans.
Anybody have any comments on that or questions? We're just considering that, so we don't, as we want to make changes, we don't know about it. So, it is recommended that the committee considers resolution, section 1 of the public bodies additions to the Income Act 1960, exclude the public and representatives of the press from the meeting during the consideration item 15, on the grounds that matters contain sensitive information and by reason of the confidential nature of the business being transacted. I intend to do item 16 for that, say that the proposed date of the next meeting is the 2nd of March 2026. I'm happy to propose that. Is everybody happy to second? Councillor Hogben, I can see if not his head. All those in favour of excluding the press and public?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's unanimous.